Bobby Moore was one of the outstanding players in footballing history. His tragically early death at the age of 51 robbed us all of a true shining talent. An outstanding England captain who led his country to World Cup glory in 1966, his life and career was far richer than perhaps his 108 England caps indicate. This amazing public reaction to Bobby's death and the depth of emotion it created is the true reflection of how football fans across the world took him to their hearts. For all of them, and indeed for everyone in this country, Bobby Moore truly was the golden boy. Bobby started life in the back streets of Barking in Essex. Born in 1941, he was an electrician's son, and it was from his dad in particular he inherited his love of football. Barking Primary School is where the road to success began. Playing at inside right, he captained the local under-11 side to cup victory 2 years running. Rather cruelly, he was known to his friends at that time as Fatso. At 16, he joined the West Ham ground staff, and that led in turn to the England youth team.
My earliest memories of Bobby Moore was when he was a sort of 16-year-old and I was a 15-year-old, and West Ham youth played Fulham youths, and you could see this fairly tall, blonde-haired lad that stood out. His clothes looked immaculate on the football pitch. You know, we had 1 or 2 holes in our socks and long shorts and things like that, but he looked absolutely magnificent in the way his attire looked. So that was my earliest memory of him. You know, as a 17-year-old.
Even in these early black and white days, Bobby was instantly recognisable. The famous number 6 on his back, that familiar upright stance, the elegant approach. A player who always looked composed and was particularly suited to the way West Ham practiced their art.
It was where he learned to play the game from various influences, Malcolm Allison prominent among them, but especially from Ron Greenwood, who described a conversation with Bobby Moore like an interrogation. You know, he would sit next to Ron on the team bus or wherever they were going, as he subsequently did with Alf Ramsey on the plane going to England matches. And the conversation, I always said to him, he'd have made a great journalist because he was one of the best questioners and interviewers you could have come across. And Ron said he picked his brains clean, and since Ron's one of the finest people of knowledge on football that there's ever been, that was quite an achievement, really.
Bobby made his first team debut for West Ham in 1958. No one knew it at the time, but both he and the Hammers were on the verge of a golden spell in the club's history. The maximum wage had just been abolished and better money was on its way.
Do you genuinely think West Ham can be a super club in a new era?
Well, I think this is something that revolves around success, Bob. You know, I think if you're a successful club, it's good for the club, it's good for the players, and the public interest is there. And I think this is the main thing about being super clubs, if you're successful.
Oh, on success, the last 2 years have been absolutely incredible for you. What has it meant to you, these last 2 years?
Oh, well, of course, since the no maximum, Bob, it's meant something like trebling my wages, which is something fantastic, really. And due to this, we're able to be buying our own house and running cars, and, you know, we're really lucky, really, in every respect.
Particularly when you recall that when he first joined the Hammers, Bobby was earning the princely sum of £7 a week. But it was all different now, and for these players under the eye of Ron Greenwood, West Ham began to make their mark on the domestic scene. They'd been promoted back to the First Division in 1958, and in May 1964, they made it to the Cup final.
So to Wembley for the grand finale of the soccer season. Programmes all aflutter. Quite understandable if the hearts of 22 men were doing much the same. Now West Ham. It's their first appearance in a peacetime cup final since the drama of that historic opening match at Wembley in 1923. At the toss-up, West Ham skipper Bobby Moore and Preston's Nobby Lawton. Referee Arthur Holland. All set? Let battle commence. Preston kick off. Proud Preston in their third Wembley Cup final. And a taste of things to come for the London club back at Wembley after 41 years. Could Preston make history? A second division club hasn't won the cup since 1931. But the Hammers are history conscious too. They take it away from North End. Winger Braybrook to Johnny Byrne, and Jeff Hurst gives goalie Kelly a shock. More heart-in-the-mouth moments for the Irish keeper. Preston, the first club ever to achieve the cup and league double, opened the scoring in the 9th minute. Kendall started things off, Dawson shoots, Standen fails to collect it, and Holden pops it in. Bobby Moore didn't need to say a word. The West Ham boys went hammering after that equaliser. Barely a minute later, Moore gave young John Sissons his chance. The 18-year-old took it like a veteran. The last word in the first half was undoubtedly Preston's. From a Wilson corner, Alex Dawson heads it home. Preston won up, and while we wondered if they'd be marching to victory, the Guards took over. The Prime Minister didn't attempt to forecast this result. Second half underway. Hammers inside left Hurst, number 10 to centre forward Bird. Then after only 7 minutes, a corner to West Ham. Wilson takes it. Jeff Hurst shoots on the rebound, and Kelly just fails to save. Right through the half, each side matching the other in pace and stamina. 2 goals each and only minutes left. Into injury time, and the Hammers hammering at Preston's door. They broke through in the last minute of the match, one of the most dramatic winning goals ever seen at Wembley. Scorer, Ronnie Boyce. So West Ham win the FA Cup, a magnificent sequel to their victory over the cup holders in the semi-finals. Bobby Moore receives the trophy from the Earl of Harwood, the cup which today can be a passport to even greater things among the cup holders of Europe. Well done, Hammers. Right on the nail.
That game at Wembley resulted in almost unprecedented scenes the following morning. Victory in the FA Cup final meant so much to the people of East London, they turned out in their tens of thousands. From Aldgate through the Whitechapel area and eventually into the Mile End Road, the club coach was mobbed by excited and jubilant fans who just had to get a peek of the team and the famous old trophy. It was the first time the Cup had been back in the East End for nearly 50 years, and it seemed everyone wanted to join in the occasion. What should have been a quiet half-hour drive finished up taking nearly 4 hours. But for Bobby Moore, this was just the beginning. He was already a man quite clearly destined for greater things, and European success was next on the list.
He had an aura about him that he knew what he wanted, he knew where he was going. Terrific driving ambition. One of Bobby's great qualities behind the cool facade was a really serious hunger to succeed. That was evident, as was his stature as a person. Bobby's quite one of the most beautiful, but also one of the most composed human beings you could wish to come across. And you were aware that here was a man who was aware of himself.
Wembley once again.
When I say he was aware of himself, he knew what was required to conduct himself in a proper manner, and he knew what was required to play to the best of his ability. He felt that if you were tied in the way you presented yourself, you were liable to be more efficient in the way you played your game or went about your business.
West Ham kick off before a record crowd for a floodlit match in England. They'd paid a record sum to watch it, but it was worth every penny. In fact, it was one of the finest displays of football Wembley has ever seen. After beating the cup winners of 4 European countries, this is how West Ham said about the Germans. How close they came to an early score, this incident will show. This is how the Lions of Munich replied, roaring into West Ham's defence. Munich had beaten the cup winners of Luxembourg, Portugal, Poland and Italy. West Ham will be a tougher nut to crack. After the interval, the Hammers showed us the power and precision that demolished the cup holders of Belgium, Czechoslovakia, Switzerland and Spain. In the net, but not like that. Just an appetizer for the real thing. And the real thing was a boy's pass to Seeley, who sent in a sizzler. The Germans call their goalie Ruddy the King, but even a king can tumble. Less than 2 minutes later, West Ham were to send in toppling for the second time. A free kick taken by Bobby Moore, and Seeley's there again to send it on its way. So West Ham become only the second British side to beat the cream of Europe and win the Cup Winners' Cup. A fantastic performance. And besides the trophy itself, there's a mini-cup for skipper Bobby Moore, who's led his team to one of the most tremendous triumphs, not only in his team's history, but in the whole history of British football.
By now, Bobby was England captain. His first games played under Walter Winterbottom, manager during England's World Cup bid of 1962.
I think all we can say is that in our matches that we've played where we failed, we seem to have run into our worst period of football, and we've made blunders in defence which we shouldn't have made. But the spirit of the boys in working hard and fighting against a goal down has been rather remarkable.
The man who replaced Winterbottom at the England helm was Alf Ramsey, the manager who'd taken Little Ipswich from nowhere to the First Division Championship. Most of the squad at first felt that Ramsey was aloof and rather distant, although he was fiercely loyal to them in face of adversity. Bobby was Alf's right-hand man, providing everything Ramsey wanted on the pitch.
Bobby was a very, very cool sort of player that could relax at a time when others were a little bit tense, and could read the game so well that he would nip it in the bud. It was as though he could read the opponent's mind, the guy with the ball, and just know exactly where he was going to put the pass, either the cross for the head or the through ball for the player running onto it. He wasn't a captain of shouting around. I mean, he'd bring a point or two up at half time, and also lift the lads before they went out. You know, give him a pat on the back and a shake of the hand, and that sort of thing. And out on the field, if you'd made a mistake or if you'd done something, well, he would make sure that he'd come over and point it out to you, whatever it was. But he wasn't a fist raiser or foot stamper at all. He just went around doing the job efficiently, which is exactly what Alf wanted.
The England team of those years prior to the 1966 World Cup campaign was to show some significant changes before Ramsey eventually got the blend right. Bobby had been captain since 1963, but Jimmy Greaves was also there with that wonderful knack of scoring crucial goals. He was still part of Ramsey's plans at that stage, not knowing he'd soon be discarded just when it seemed he was an essential part of the team. Bobby Charlton was later to become one of England's greatest heroes, as was the fiery little red-haired winger from Blackpool. 19-year-old Alan Ball was England's baby.
strange really, because you've got a cheeky northern lad poking his nose in everywhere, and this, well, aristocratic leader from down the south, and he just took to me. I think I must have made him laugh. I was always up the tricks, as you can imagine, and he just took to me, and we got on famously.
That was the start of a friendship which was to last throughout Bobby Moore's life. But to all his teammates of that era, Bobby will remain someone very special. When you consider the talent which he had playing alongside him, like centre-half Jack Charlton, it really does take a special kind of ability to be all things to all men. From Roger Hunt to Alan Mullery, players could see that Bobby's talent was exceptional.
I mean, he was world class, there's no doubt about that. If you look at the 66 squad with Banks, Charlton, Moore, Hurst, Peters, whatever, they were all world class players. Ray Wilson was a world class player. Bob was the world class player with the Bobby Charltons and the Bankses as well. He was undoubtedly, he was the best defender in that position throughout his career, no doubt about that.
His footballing vision was another skill that set him apart from lesser players. But although there were areas of his game that were open to criticism, Moore's command of the England team remained unchallenged. And somehow the success that this side went on to enjoy has left them all with an incredibly strong mutual bonding, the type of closeness and understanding you rarely find amongst players at this rarefied level. The side were later to be known as the wingless wonders, but however you looked at it, one man stood head and shoulders above the rest, the most natural leader surely that England will ever have.
He had this air about him that everything's okay back here. You just get on with your job up there, midfield and up front. He's just don't worry about anything here. And he had this like arrogance, really, that everything. But it rubbed off on you. You seemed to be confident that everything would be sorted out back there.
In his position, he was arguably the best in the world at the time, and one of the greatest players in that position of all time. He had this awareness. He had this knack of knowing where danger was and nipping it in the bud. A lot of players have criticised him by saying that, you know, well, Bobby Moore doesn't head the ball very much, he's not very fast. But his other attributes compensated for that in no small measure. He read the game, he had great control, he got control of the ball very, very quickly, assessed the situation very quickly, and also had this quality of knowing where people are, as we say in the game, you know, he had good radar.
When the draw for the 1966 World Cup final was made, the public expectations were growing even stronger. Ramsey had long since gone on record that his team would win the World Cup. But one crucial fact did not emerge until later. Bobby Moore was actually in dispute with West Ham over his contract, and the man who was later to lift the Jules Rimet trophy that day very nearly got squeezed out on a technicality.
Immediately prior to the start of the 1966 World Cup, they were in dispute, and in fact Bobby hadn't re-signed his contract, and as the regulation stood at that time, he wasn't registered as a footballer in this country. Now, the fact that he was the finest one here didn't matter. He wasn't registered to play football in England or under the auspices of FIFA. And Ron was asked by Alf Ramsey, who was otherwise very reluctant for the camp to be disrupted, was asked to go to the team hotel and re-sign Bobby formally for West Ham so that he could play for England. And as Bobby remembered later, the point at issue was a matter of £10 a week at that time.
So Mr. Greenwood asked me to make a decision. I made the decision. The decision has been made. And as I say, you know, the decision is that I don't wish to renew my contract with the club.
It's quite definite you will not be with West Ham next season.
Well, I won't be renewing my contract.
Do you think this trouble you're having with the club will have any effect on your chances of captaining England and indeed playing in the World Cup this year?
Well, this is difficult to say. It possibly can't help them, but I think the least said at the moment, the better regarding that.
If Alf had remained extremely stubborn, as he can be and could be, about the camp not being disrupted, and if Ron and he hadn't got together over the £10, then perhaps he'd have been watching, not playing, because he certainly could not have played at that point unless he'd signed the forms.
"71 nations entered the contest, 16 have reached the final rounds, and wearing their national colours, schoolboys parade around the stadium at the opening ceremony at Wembley. And never had England stood a better chance of winning. Bobby Moore's men with only one change in the team that recently beat Poland. So England, who've never yet won the World Cup, begin the last leg of their quest for the trophy. And they begin with Moore, Wilson and Bobby Charlton sending the Uruguayans back into defence. Then Connelly forces a corner. Altogether, England got 15 corners, Uruguay only 1. Surely this one should have got through.
The negative South Americans were delighted to hold England in the opening match of the tournament, but it wasn't long before the home fans got over their disappointment. There were some things to savour. Goals from Bobby Charlton, like this one, against Mexico. There was also the uglier side of the game, the infamous clash with Argentina when Rattan, having been sent off, refused to walk. It was an unsavoury incident which led Ramsey to later describe the Argentinians as animals.
At Wembley, England kick off against Portugal in their World Cup semi-final. And Bobby Charlton's there with England's first. England lead 1-0. Again, England are in the picture, getting the ball well down the field. Jeff Hurst keeps possession, and Bobby Charlton's right there. But there's the whistle, so England meet West Germany in the final.
Oh, I think we were pretty well relaxed on the eve of the final because we were in the final. That was it, you know, we were in the final. I remember, the only worry I had, I remember, was going to bed and wondering if I would sleep.
I can remember saying to Jackie Charlton about 5 and 20 past, 2:30, I said, I can't believe this, Jack. I said, you know, it's probably one of the most important matches that we're going to be playing in. And there's chaos in the dressing room. So he said, well, yeah, it's chaos because it's the World Cup final.
It was just a fantastic day. And I've always said it's just a pity I was too young at the time, really, for it all to sink in. But with Bobby, he was at the right age, he was carrying. But what struck me about that particular day was how calm he was before the game, during the game, and after it.
97,000 people paid over £200,000 to see it, the greatest soccer game ever played in these islands. England in red instead of their usual white. Never before in the World Cup final, but playing a team who've never beaten us before, West Germany, who won the Cup in 1954. Bobby Moore and Uwe Seeler exchange banners. Swiss referee Gottfried Dienst spins the coin. And West Germany are to kick off. It's exactly 36 years to the day since the very first final in Montevideo. For the thousands at Wembley, for the millions who've been following the contest all over the world, this is the climax. One of the three West Ham players in the side, number 16, Martin Peter. In the German goal, Tilkowski. Nobby Stiles in a movement which is to end with Tilkowski clashing with Jeff Hurst. And Tilkowski is injured in the face. But thank heavens, the injury wasn't serious. Helt, number 10. But Emmerich fails to complete. Then after 12 minutes, Helt has the ball again. England fails to clear his centre, and Haller pounces on it to score. Oddly enough, no team which scored first has ever won a World Cup final. Would this jinx work for England? Would victory crown their first appearance in the final? Only 6 minutes after Germany's opener, Bobby Moore is fouled by Overath.
Fortunate enough, the ball stayed in my vicinity, so I could get hold of it quickly. The ball was right, Jeff's timing of the run was right, and it was a perfect header from his point of view. So to be going in on terms, level terms, was probably good for us, and probably a little bit of a psychological disappointment for the West Germans.
England kick off for phase 2. Peters again. Germany's Overath to Helt. And on to Beckenbauer, one of the outstanding players in the championship. Peters has another go. But his glory was to come. Ball takes a corner. Hurst has a go, but out it comes to Peters. With that superb shot, England are in the lead. If they can hold on for 13 more minutes, the championship is theirs. But Haller, Helt and Emmerich make those minutes seem like hours. It puts years on you, waiting to see if England can make it a certainty, to see if Bobby Charlton can make it 3-1. Not that time, nor this time for Germany. Then only 30 seconds from the whistle, a free kick for Germany. Weber has equalized. The World Cup has slipped from our fingers. So it's extra time, 30 more minutes of agonizing effort over this exhausting rain-soaked turf. For Germany, it's the chance to steal victory from the very jaws of defeat. Helt centers, and there's nobody there. The psychological effect on England must have been horrifying. But with men like Alan Ball and George Cohen, every problem has an answer. It came the 10th ball passes to Hurst, and he scores England's third. The referee had to consult the Russian linesman before awarding the goal. It was strongly disputed on the grounds it hadn't crossed the line. So England were in the lead, but not out of trouble after changing ends for the second half of extra time. Then, with the crowd calling for time and the final whistle only seconds away, England get the ball upfield and Hurst goes through on his own. With his third goal in the game, Geoff Hurst confirms the victory beyond any shadow of doubt.
We'd won the World Cup, and Bob was the captain, walking up the stairs at the front of the team. And Bob was absolutely getting battered to death by supporters, ruffling his hair and smacking him on the back and shaking his hand. And then afterwards, he turned around and said it was harder to get up the steps than it was playing in that World Cup final. And I think that's really basically how I remember Bob. You know, all the lovely accolades and congratulations being thrown at him as he walked up the stairs, and for us all, you know, which was nice.
When I just approached the top of the stairs and come round the corner for the first time, all I could visualise was the Queen in shining white gloves. You know, and we'd been playing on a very, very wet pitch, and all I could think of is dirty, wet, muddy hands. I can't possibly shake hands with her like this. And the first thing I could think of was to clean my hands, and which I did on top of a lovely laid-out velvet just prior to meeting her. You know, I suppose it might have been a silly thing to do, you know, to many, many people, but it was just an immediate reaction was that, my goodness me, those lovely white gloves, I can't dirty them.
I think when he lifted the cup, we saw his face and the great emotion of it all, but he was probably still the calmest bloke in the stadium.
These images of Bobby Moore and the rest of the England team that day in 1966 are the ones that will live forever. Somehow England's success was encapsulated in a wonderful moment in time. It was certainly an occasion that no one who saw it either live or on television will ever forget. If there was a golden day above all others in Bobby Moore's career, this surely was it.
Great. What sort of match was it? Oh, great match, because we won, didn't we? Great. How do you feel about things, Jackie?
Bobby,
I'm sorry.
you don't have to ask me, really, do you? Hey?
What do you think of the game itself?
Very, very hard and tough.
How do you feel about the game?
Oh, delighted, naturally.
How do you feel now?
Oh, over the world, over the world.
Over the world he may have been, but England's success marked the beginning of celebrations across the country that were to last days and even weeks. The team returned to their hotel in Kensington complete with the trophy, and it seemed that the crowd would never let them go. The enthusiastic supporters eventually broke through a police cordon and the safety barriers, but it was all good-natured stuff. After all, they only wanted to be nearer the team that had just created English footballing history. Even Alf Ramsey was smiling as the occasion seemed to get through to him too. But surely the World Cup had never been paraded quite like this before, as it passed from player to player. At a victory banquet later, in his own quiet way, Bobby summed up what everyone in the England squad felt about the man who'd led them to glory.
I'd just like to ask all the lads to be upstanding and drink a toast to the greatest manager in the world, Mr. Alf Ramsey.
Yeah. Alf Ramsey, a toast.
From that moment, Bobby was hardly ever out of the headlines, seen here sharing the limelight with swimmer Linda Ludgrove. He became involved in various business ventures, including trendy shirts of the day. And of course, like most footballers, he had a love of fast, expensive cars. And why not? He was earning good money.
I mean, everything he did with style. He did with class. You know, the suits that he wore were always beautifully pressed. I always had the image that if he fell into a swimming pool in his suit, he would come out and the suit would still be pressed. Where if I fell in, I'd come out looking like a rag doll. You know, that was the type that Bob was.
Bobby was an immaculate man, and he used to lay out his clothes all in lines, and his watch used to be immaculately put on the side of the bedroom cabinet, and everything was all in standard procedure, and he was the most wonderful roommate to have, because nothing was ever out of place. I mean, most footballers, they go in, they, you know, the old joke, you know, wipe your boots on the mattress and shoes on the mattress. But Bob was absolutely spotless.
So how did the England captain react to that tag of the Golden Boy?
With wry humour. You know, as he'd open a can of lager, he'd sort of say, shouldn't I be drinking champagne? Here's to the Golden Boy. I mean, he was, he had no real sense of wanting to impose his success on his personal life, although he was very proud to have achieved what he did.
In 1967, Bobby was awarded the OBE for his services to football. It was a rare chance for his first wife, Tina, to share some of the reflected glory that Bobby so often enjoyed without her. In every sense, they were the model family, here with his son Dean and daughter Roberta.
A very private man, very quiet. I mean, he would mix with the lads, but he would be very quiet in that respect. He wasn't a boisterous character. Slightly wicked sense of humour at times, you know, would play up one or two times, you know, with things, but he was a very personal and quiet man, I believe.
He had a cheeky sense of humour, you know, and he had this mischievous thing about him as well. He's very, very dry, and you had to be on your toes with him. If you weren't on your toes with him, he'd take the mick out of you very, very easily.
Many's the time when he's gone along the line of the England team introducing the players by the wrong name. Yeah, Ray Wilson would be George Cohen, and I'd be Roger Hunt, and more I'd go, this is Roger Hunt, you know, and they'd all go, and they wouldn't know. I mean, this is the FA officials and dignitaries, and they wouldn't know, and Morrow just straight-faced, you know. And he'd do things like that. And I think Bobby got me into more trouble than any other footballer I've ever known. And I mean, and I've played with some villains.
In 1970, England were to defend the World Cup in Mexico. This was a major test for all the teams taking part in the tournament. Not only were the matches to be played in 100-degree heat, there was the additional problem of playing at altitude. To acclimatise and prepare thoroughly in similar conditions, England decided to play Colombia, and it was in Bogota that disaster struck. A mysterious incident that nearly led to an international row. Unbelievably, the England captain was accused of stealing a bracelet from a shop in the foyer of the team's hotel.
He opened with his left hand, opened the window, taking out the bracelet and put it in his pocket. I'm very depressed, and I can assure you that I feel very sorry for Bobby Moore. But it's not my fault, and I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
It's a ludicrous charge, quite preposterous. Bobby knew he was innocent, so therefore he was psychologically untroubled.
But 11 days later, Bobby was cleared and released to rejoin the rest of the team.
It's a great relief. Now that the thing is behind me, I intend to try and forget all about it and just concentrate on the job ahead. That's difficult enough. And as I say, I just hope that it's not going to have any effect and that everything's going to be fine once we get to Mexico and start preparing for the World Cup once again.
He psychologically was ready to play football by the time he came out of house arrest and arrived in Mexico and started to play, which is a tribute to his ambition and his focus.
Greeted on his arrival by a relieved Alf Ramsey, Bobby was about to take part in a game which many feel was the high point of his long England career against Brazil. This was a new-look England team. Some of the heroes of 1966 had already gone, but Banks was still there at the back, and Moore was about to enjoy a duel in the sun against the world's most exciting side. The huge crowd sat back in the sweltering afternoon heat and enjoyed an outstanding game.
Cleared away. England will have to pace themselves in this heat.
Both England and Brazil knew that this match should have been the final, but it turned out to be a game remembered for Pele's skill, Gordon Banks' save, and Bobby Moore's outstanding defensive display.
The whistle's up immediately. Here's Zeno. Alberto making the running. Bobby Moore down. Alan Ball. There's the cross. Reach our way. Peters. Bobby Moore challenging with Herzino. Of the foul against the number 7. Herzino, the scorer of 2 goals against Czechoslovakia. Bobby Moore. There goes Herzino. He's onside. That's a good cross ball. It's Pele. And a fantastic save by Banks. What a fantastic save by Gordon Banks. Glorious header. Ship aim for Herzino. Bobby Moore across to read it. Has Peters forward to use. Follows Cesar. Got a good left foot, this boy, and Pele's going into the middle hard and fast. Chance here, and this ball gets it away. Now, here is Rivellino. Costello breaking, but Bobby Moore has him covered all the way. And England supporters waving their flags and rising to Bobby Moore, the England captain. There's Pele now, and Bobby Moore stops him. James Costello, and again Bobby Moore in there to stop him. What a superb bloke to have in your side. On the England defence, Costello. And here's Pele. Giardino. There it is. Giardino gets it. And the crowd at the stadium erupts with excitement as Giardino. Bobby Moore. Bill in trouble. But as usual, Bobby Moore is there to get him out of it. For Roars, there's another Mexican scoreline. Oh, there's a foul by Pele running straight across Moore.
I can remember him taking the ball off Giardino when Giardino was clean through, and he played cat and mouse with Giardino for all of 25-30 yards before he just snapped and took it off him and just strolled away with it. That was the class of him. He never got ruffled. He was, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the greatest players could ever been privileged to play with or against.
We didn't deserve to lose it. At the very least, we deserved a draw out of it. And Bobby Moore had the most marvellous game. Probably his life. I mean, he has actually said that. I do know. I've seen that on film. He was acclaimed then, I think, then and there as one of the best centre-halves in the world, if not the best. And Pele came over to congratulate him, and really it should have been the opposite way around because they'd won, you see. But they knew that they were lucky to win that game. Bob, like we knew him, he came in the dressing room and lifted everybody, saying, "Come on, you know, we're still in there. We might have lost. It's our first defeat, but you know, we're still in there. Maybe play them in the final."
Despite the defeat, it wasn't the end of the tournament at that stage. England were to go out later to West Germany. But Moore's England career was approaching its natural conclusion. This was his 107th cap against Italy. At club level, though, things weren't quite as happy as they once had been. Contractual problems at Upton Park with manager Ron Greenwood led to inevitable speculation. Although Moore was maintaining his usual immaculate standard of performance for both club and country, it wasn't long before the press were on the trail. And his playing future was the talking point of the day. How could West Ham exist without the great man?
Is Bobby unhappy at West Ham?
No, I don't think Bobby's unhappy at West Ham. Probably Bobby's unhappy in some respects within himself. He's got problems, and this is something that anybody must be affected by a situation like this. But he's a very capable young man, and he can cope with it, I'm sure. He's coped with bigger situations than this.
Would you very much regret his leaving West Ham?
I regret any player leaving West Ham. He'd thought that perhaps he'd run his time there and that there was time for a change. There's also the question of trying to secure your future, and often when you move you can get slightly better terms somewhere else.
Alex Stock called me into Fulham one day and he took me up to his office and said, "I've got something to say to you." I thought I was going to get a sack, actually. And he said, "How well do you know Bobby Moore?" I said, "Extremely well, you know, with England and as kids and things like this." He said, "Would you be worried if he came to Fulham?" I said, "Not likely." I said, "The fellow we got playing alongside the centre-half's not much good. We need somebody like Morrow." So he said, "Well," he said, "we've got a chance to sign him." He said, "You wouldn't like to go over to West Ham and sign him for us, would you?" And I think Alec was in awe of Bobby at that time. So he said, "You know him better than I do, go over and sign him." So I went over to West Ham, had a quick chat with him, agreed all the terms, and he signed the forms to play for Fulham. So it was the first signing I ever made as a professional football manager. The only problem come was his first game. We were playing Middlesbrough, and at that time they were going into the first division under Jackie Charlton, and we're beating everybody in sight. And this first game we were 4-0 down after 20 minutes. And as he picked the ball out the net, you know, for the fourth goal, he walked up alongside me, he put his arm around me, he said, "I think I might have made a mistake, mate."
There was one more Wembley final to come for Bobby, playing for his new club Fulham against his old side West Ham in the FA Cup final of 1975.
And Bobby Moore, he really looked so relaxed, Bobby, didn't he? And so sure of himself, Alan, your best friend.
Yeah, he'll be loving this moment now. He'll be loving it.
And Alex Stock. West Ham are pushing everybody forward. Only Day is in his own half of the field now. Patton. Bonds, it won't reach him. Because again, Fulham were first. Moore, Mullery to Moore. And there's the old master again. Billy Jennings screaming for the ball, hitting it first time. Miller gets it. Taylor turns it back, yes! Alan Taylor! 1-0 to West Ham against the run of the Taylor!
Victory to West Ham by 2-0. Ironically, it was Bobby's old chum Billy Bonds who lifted the cup high that afternoon. For Bobby Moore, it was a day of sadness, not just for himself, but also for his good pal Alan Mullery, who'd also had his dreams of one more winner's medal so cruelly dashed.
And last in the line of players, Bobby Moore.
We were walking off the pitch at Wembley and I was a bit down in the dumps, and he put his arm around me and he said, "Did you enjoy it?" And I said, "No, I didn't really." I said, "Because we got beat." He said, "Hold on." He said, "Two guys our age shouldn't be playing in cup finals, so we should have enjoyed it." And that's the way he was, you know, as a person.
So the losers troop away.
In 1977, Bobby played his last game for Fulham. Manager Bobby Campbell sent him on his way to his farewell appearance in front of his faithful fans. The reception that afternoon was so typical of crowds throughout his career who loved to watch a class act.
People will always remember Bobby Moore, and people will always look up to him. He was one of my idols when I was a kid. I remember when I was on schoolboy forms for the football club, Don Revie, who was then England manager, came down and gave us a talk in. And I asked a question to Don Revie, who was then the England boss. "I'm a bit worried. People say I haven't got enough pace to make it in the game." He turned around and said, "Well, don't forget, Bobby Moore didn't have pace. Bobby Moore couldn't head the ball. In fact, Bobby Moore couldn't tackle either." And I said, "Oh, so why was Bobby Moore such a good player?" "Bobby Moore, he was simply the best we've ever had," said Don Revie.
From that point, Bobby's career fell into the doldrums. A spell as manager at Southend was all too brief. His experience somehow neglected by the rest of the footballing fraternity. He never achieved anything like success as a manager.
You know, I'm just beginning, and, you know, I liken it to the days when I just left school. What I wanted to do was become a professional footballer. When I got that opportunity, I wanted to make my mark, you know, in West Ham's A team to begin with, then get a regular place in the reserves, first team football, hopefully eventually end up playing for England. And, you know, I was fortunate I achieved all those things as a player, and I've always said that, you know, when I become a manager, I would be at the bottom rung of the ladder again, beginning all over again.
But Bobby wasn't alone in finding it hard to come to terms with a new direction in his life. Gordon Banks understands the problems.
I never think that that players are given long enough to settle into a manager's job. When I look back on it, I feel very, very sad and sorry that he wasn't involved in the game. When you think of all the experience and all the skill that he had, and remember he was classed as a world-class player, for the game to have lost him and for him not to have put all that experience back into the game, there's something wrong. It's sad that he wasn't asked to do that more often than he was.
But he was a very quiet person, you know, never broadcast his thoughts and kept them to himself. Like I said, he was very polite always, you know, he would always stand back if someone else wanted to talk. There were always people that talked a lot more than him. But he had a great awareness of the game, and I think that people did appreciate his thoughts. And in lots of cases, you know, he did work, but because it's not on television, people assume, you know, that you're not doing anything. But he was always working and always very interested in the game, always writing about the game, always doing things for radio, etc.
We wanted an ambassador to be the captain of our own team to go to the World Cup finals in 1990. We wanted the biggest name in English football. We wanted someone who could relate to kids through professionals, through the management, through to the top managers of our game. And of course, Bobby Moore stood out a mile.
In 1991, Bobby had an operation for suspected cancer of the colon. And although he looked fit, those who knew him well were starting to get worried.
We now, of course, realise that the first illness he had 2 years ago may well have been the start of the illness that finally killed him. But he kept it all hidden. You would never have believed it, the way he led his life. I went away with him. He'd swim, he'd run. He used to have a go at me because I was so unfit, and he was fit. And all this time, perhaps now, you know, he had this illness.
I think he made 2 pilgrimages at the end of his life. He went to Wembley a couple of days before he died for the San Marino game. He also went to West Ham. And I think he was saying his goodbyes then, looking back on it. He rang me on the Thursday before he died, on the Monday, I think it was, and without me knowing, he said his goodbyes then. And It's only just come home to me, even now, that how thoughtful he was. But West Ham most certainly was his club.
It's an emotional loss. You don't fill a Bobby Moore-shaped hole in anybody's life like that. They don't come around very often.
It's gone, you know, the great dream that I all had, the great passion that I had, and the love of the World Cup team, you know, it's broken now, you know, and that was because Bobby would have died.
Mr. Bobby Moore.
Not only had lost a good friend, but the nation had lost a great, great footballer. I think if there was an epitaph to write for him, it would be Bobby Moore, star.
In an age of changing values, in an age of increasing aggression within society, in an age when courtesy is a lost art, Bobby Moore will be remembered as that phenomenon, a sporting gentleman.
A great friend, a fabulous footballer, and my family and I just miss him terribly because he was such a nice guy. I think about my father every day, and Bobby comes into my mind at some stage of a day, every day since he's died. And I want it to be like that for the rest of my life because he was special to me.